Elijah McCoy was a Canadian-American inventor. He was noted for his 57 U.S. patents, with most of them having to do with lubrication of steam engines. He lived in Michigan and could only get work as a fireman and oiler at Michigan Central Railroad. While there, he improved current oiling systems and invented others, such as the automatic lubricator for oiling the steam engines of locomotives and ships. This was patented in 1872. Booker T. Washington wrote in his book in 1909 that Elijah McCoy had more patents than any other black inventor at that time. He also invented a folding ironing board and a lawn sprinkler. Because of lack of capital to mass produce, he usually assigned or sold his patent rights to his employers or to investors. Lubricators with the McCoy name were not manufactured until 1920, near the end of his career. At that time, he had formed the Elijah McCoy Manufacturing Company. And yes, he was a real McCoy. Scott Joplin was an African American composer. Besides composing music, he played several musical instruments as the cornet, mandolin, the violin, and the banjo. His father was an ex-slave and his mother was an African American woman from Kentucky. Scott was given limited musical education but was allowed to play the piano in the people's homes that his mother cleaned. By age 11, he began music lessons with Julius Weiss, a German-born American Jewish music professor who had immigrated to Texas. Although Professor Weiss was no stranger to racism himself, he was a tutor to prominent families. He saw great potential in Scott and tutored him from age 11 to age 16 free of charge. He also assisted his mother in obtaining a piano for Scott to practice on. Scott began writing and performing his songs and music in local clubs and homes. He attended the World Fair in 1893 in Chicago. He formed a band and played music and played beside the main expositions. He introduced ragtime music, or rag as they called it at the time. By 1897, ragtime had become a national craze as it captured the pulse of America. He became known as the King of Ragtime. He also composed the music for the movie The Sting with Robert Redford. Madam C.J. Walker was an African American woman that represents all that is possible. She was an entrepreneur, philanthropist, political and social activist, along with being the first self-made female millionaire in America. Madam C.J. Walker was born on December 23, 1867, near Delta, Louisiana. Her birth name was Sarah Breedlow. Although she was born on the cotton plantation that her parents were slaves on, she was the first child that was born free due to the passage of the Emancipation Proclamation. At age 20, she moved to St. Louis, Missouri with her young daughter, as she had become a widow due to the death of her husband. While living in St. Louis, she worked as a poorly paid washwoman for more than 10 years. While in St. Louis, she was mentored by women of the National Association of Colored Women, which consisted of teachers and other women of high esteem. During that time, she began experimenting with her formula to cure scalp infections that cause baldness, as all of the commercial products available were ineffectual. In 1906, she married Charles Walker. She began achieving local success with what became known as the Walker Method, or the Walker system of beauty culture. At this time, she used the initials of her husband's first and middle name, calling herself Madam C.J. Walker. Bessie Coleman was the first woman of African American and Native American descent to become a civil aviator. She was born Elizabeth Betsy Coleman on January 26, 1892 in Atlanta, Texas. Her mother was African American and her father was African American and Native American. All during her life, she acknowledged and celebrated both cultures. She attended a school that closed when her family, as well as others, needed help in picking cotton to get the harvest completed on time. After Bessie completed school, which was the 8th grade, she worked as a laundress. She saved her money until 1910 when she left Texas to attend Langston University in Oklahoma. She left Langston after 1 year due to lack of money. She moved to Chicago, where she was encouraged to go to France to get her pilot's license, as aviators in the area were white and, due to racism, refused to teach her to fly an airplane. At that time, she began learning French in late 1920. On June 15, 1927, she received her Federation Aeronautic International license, the first African American to do so. In 1922, she went to Germany, France, Holland to gain further experience in flying. She returned to America and took on the mission of getting black people interested in aviation. She did exposition shows to raise money to fund this endeavor. While practicing for an exhibition, she was ejected from her plane and died on April 30th, 1926. Dr. Maulana Karenga, professor and chairman of Black Studies at California State University, Long Beach, created Kwanzaa in 1966. After the Watts riots in Los Angeles, Dr. Karenga searched for ways to bring African Americans together as a community. He founded US, a cultural organization, and started to research African first fruit harvest celebrations. Dr. Karenga combined aspects of several different harvest celebrations, such as those of the Ashanti and those of the Zulu, to form the basis of the 7 days of Kwanzaa. The name Kwanzaa is derived from the phrase Matunda ya Kwanzaa, which means fresh fruit in Swahili. The 7 principles of Kwanzaa are unity, self-determination, collective work and responsibility, cooperative economics, purpose, creativity, and faith. The Black Panther Party was founded in Oakland, California on October 15, 1966 by 2 college students. The students were Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale. They met at Merritt Junior College. Huey Newton approached Bobby Seale about the problems of police harassment of black people in Oakland, and particularly black men. The Black Panther Party organized community-based central services programs. Their 3 main goals were to stop police harassment and brutality, educate people about racial pride and dignity and self-reliance. The party established patrols in the black community of Oakland to monitor police activities and protect the residents within them. They all had alliances with white activists such as Students for a Democratic Society, SDS, the Weathermen, and more. The BPP, the Black Panther Party, was so effective in Oakland, people through America called and requested to open chapters in their respective cities, which they did. Due to the growing strength of the BPP, the FBI launched a program called COINTELPRO, which was designed to disrupt efforts to unify black groups. The FBI labeled the BPP as militant, and has never in the history of America has any other group been labeled with that term since. But their programs and program structure was so substantive that some form of these programs have been replicated to this day. The free breakfast and school and Saturday school tutorial programs, free clinics, and many more. After years serving the Black Panther Party, the 2 founders left to pursue other endeavors. Bobby Seale eventually left Oakland. Huey P. Newton went on to earn his Ph.D. in social philosophy at the University of California and authored several books. Huey Newton was murdered in Oakland in August of 1989.